Should we be concerned or not concerned about Allen Robinson moving forward? Find out now. All right, welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen, and today we are going to be talking about Allen Robinson. We're going to be weighing both sides of the story, whether or not it is time to be a little concerned about LARob or if it's way too early. Before we dive into that, be sure to check out Into the AM, the sponsor of this video. They sent me this pretty dope t-shirt as well as some other t-shirts, so be sure to check them out. You can go grab some of their sweet gear over at intotheam.com and use promo code JKBogan. That'll get you 10% off all of their very comfortable shirts. They're running a bundle deal right now for their graphic tees, which is 3 for $60. And you can click the link below and you'll get an additional 10% off. Into the AM is a team of artists and creators who share a common vision, seeing clothing as a canvas to express what drives them. Since 2012, they've developed premium apparel that elevates self-expression and provides unparalleled comfort for wherever your passions take you. They have a team full of skilled artisans crafting each garment with the highest quality fabrics and eco-friendly inks. So be sure to check out Into the AM, the sponsor today, and make sure to check out the link in the description and the comment section pinned below. With that being said, let's dive right into Allen Robinson, because I want to isolate his first 3 games with a bunch of different comparisons to himself in different years, but in addition to that, to other players. So I'm going to kind of do a little deep dive into this and give you kind of the deets here in regards to the last 3 games. Now, here's the thing, and I just want you to know before we get into it, I think it is a little too soon to be worried about Allen Robinson. I do think people are underestimating how tough it is to get into this scheme, and I don't think it's for everyone. So there is an outside chance that maybe he isn't a good fit, and maybe there's a trade that could happen mid-season when Odell comes back, knowing that he is a good fit. However, I'm not ruling out that he is, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think the Rams have utilized him correctly. They haven't given him a jump ball deep down the field. They really haven't been able to do much because of the injuries to their offensive line. They've only had one tight end. They have a tight end that got suspended. They just have a tight end that they took off the practice squad. They have a running game that hasn't been able to really get going, albeit that's a whole other thing that I could get into in a completely different video. So let's keep that in mind before we get into it. Really, not a lot of opportunities, last night against the Arizona Cardinals, because really the offense was only on the field for Matthew Stafford only had 25 passes thrown. I mean, the offense was on the field hardly at all in this game, so there weren't really a ton of opportunities for LARob. There were more last week, and then the week before that, it just ended up getting out of hand. It became a blowout, all of that. So before we get into that, I just need you to know that I'm not out on LARob, and I still believe in him. But let's dive into the stats. So Allen Robinson on the season has 7 catches on 12 targets for 88 yards and a touchdown. The reason people are concerned is because that's an awfully low number in 3 games. It's pretty good if you have it just a game, right? If you come away with a 7-catch, 88-yard and a touchdown game, that's a pretty good fantasy day. That's pretty good just regular football day at the receiver position. However, people are a little concerned that that's 3 games. And so I understand to a degree. You look at Tyler Higbee, he's got 16 receptions on 24 targets for 171 yards. And then you look at Ben Skoranek, a guy that most people wanted off the roster before the season started. Told you. He was going to end up panning out if they gave him an opportunity. But he only has 10 catches for 107 yards, but that's more than Allen Robinson on 13 targets. Would people be on Allen Robinson's case the way they are right now if he didn't have a bad season last year? No, because last year, I think, really contributes to it. People all of a sudden start to say things like he's washed. And I get it. He had 38 receptions for 410 yards last year and only 1 touchdown. He's already matched his touchdown total for last year, so that's fair to say. But then in addition to that, you go back and you go through the years that he's had, and the first 3 games of every single year that Allen Robinson has played in the NFL. Last year, he had 10 receptions on 21 targets for 86 yards and a touchdown through 3 games. So kind of a similar output, although he's only been targeted 12 times to 21 at this point last year. You move on a year later in 2020, he's targeted 31 times, comes down with 18 of them for 230 yards and a touchdown. 2019 is 17 of 27 for 203 yards. 2018 was 17 of 28 for 194 yards. He obviously got hurt in the first game of 2017, so there's not anything there. But 2016, he was 16 of 31 for 183 yards and 2 touchdowns. 2015, he was 11 for 27 for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then his rookie season back in 2014, 12 for 19 for 154. So you could argue, not saying it's guaranteed, but you could argue so far statistically, he has had the worst season of his career for the first 3 games. You could argue that based on his first 3 games and the output statistically, yeah, they're not quite up to where you would want them. Okay, that's fine. But hear me out. First off, it's only 3 games. Rome wasn't built overnight. This is a brand new offense for him. Sure, he had a chance to get things down the offseason, in the preseason, but we were saying the same thing about Robert Woods, and Cooper Kupp took over last year, first 3 games. So let's look at Sean McVay's receiving weapons the first 3 games in key seasons under Sean McVay. We'll start with Robert Woods' 2021 season. I think he's often compared to Robert Woods mainly because Robert Woods was out the door after they signed Allen Robinson. But when you look at it, Robert Woods last year didn't have a great start to his season in the first 3 games. He only had 19 targets. He caught 11 of them for 124 yards and a touchdown. Not much better than Allen Robinson, but a little bit better than Allen Robinson. I think really it just comes down to the Rams haven't utilized Robinson correctly, and they really haven't targeted him much. But is that the game flow? Is that teams actually trying to force them to throw to Cooper Kupp? Are they worried about Robinson? Could be a myriad of things, but that's how we see it so far. 2017, he comes away with 10 catches on 16 targets for 169 yards and no touchdowns. Interesting. Not a dominant performance for the first 3 games, but not awful, but also not blowing up, right? He ended up being a pretty decent contributor moving forward, actually was a very good receiver. He ended up getting 2 contracts with the Rams. First 3 games, does it tell the full story? Not always. Okay, we move on to rookie year Cooper Kupp. He had 14 targets. He caught 19 of them for 126 yards and a touchdown. So a little bit better output than Allen Robinson, but he was also targeted more than Allen Robinson. So that's also interesting. Okay, we move on. Sammy Watkins. How about this? Okay, how about Sammy Watkins as an example of why you can't just assume that up to week 3 is enough to just crown anybody, right? This is why, okay? Sammy Watkins here, and not throwing shade on him, but he caught 13 of 14 targets for 194 yards and 2 touchdowns. He finished under 700 yards for the entire year. Think about that. And Brandon Cooks. Love Brandon Cooks. I think he's incredibly underrated. He's had a ton of experience and a ton of production, ton of 1,000-yard seasons. But here's the interesting one, okay? Brandon Cooks has one of the most dominant first 3 games in the history of a Rams receiver. I mean, I haven't looked back too far, but, I mean, this is incredible. Cooks had 19 catches on 25 targets for 336 yards. That's insane. But that's also what happens when you have a deep threat, right? Of course. How about rookie year Van Jefferson? 5 catches on 9 targets, 76 yards. That's a better comparison to Allen Robinson. And I would take Allen Robinson's first 3 games over Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson's 2021 season, however, in his first 3 games, 7 of 12 for 136 and a touchdown. So really, that's exactly what Allen has got. He's had 12. Isn't that weird? He has the same amount of targets as Van Jefferson, who was a number 3 receiver in the first 3 games. He has the same amount of targets. He has the same amount of catches, and he has way fewer yards, and he has the touchdown that Van also had. So that's also interesting. So maybe the issue is that the Rams are really using Allen Robinson as a 3rd receiver, and they're really using Tyler Higbee as the number 1 guy, because Tyler Higbee's numbers for the first 3 games at 171 on 16 of 24, those 24 targets are more than any of the guys that I just mentioned. Woods in 2021, Woods in 2017, Kupp in his rookie year, Watkins in 2017, just under Brandon Cooks. So all those guys I just mentioned, he's just under Brandon Cooks. Tyler Higbee has gotten plenty of targets early on. Ben Skowronek has got 13. That's more than Van Jefferson had at this point last year. So very interesting stuff here for the Rams. Again, it's only 3 games. Things change and everything. But it is very interesting that Tyler Higbee seems like he's become this second guy. And I think that's really what we're seeing. We're seeing kind of a changing here where we all just assumed, I know me included, assumed that was going to be the Kupp and Robinson show. And I made the argument that, look, teams are going to try to shut down Kupp and put such an emphasis that'll open up the door for Robinson. But I don't think teams have shut down Kupp at all. And I do think at the end of the day, you've seen the improvement from Tyler Higbee, and we've seen them utilize Higbee more. So that's incredibly interesting and something to monitor. These last two here, you had Deshaun Jackson in 2021. He had 5 catches on 7 targets for 141 yards and a touchdown. So not utilized a ton, but when he was utilized in a big way. And then the big one here, Odell Beckham Jr. in his first 3 games coming to LA, he had 18 targets, 9 for 18 for 127 yards and 2 touchdowns. They went out of the gates, went out of their way to go out and get OBJ involved. They also had to because Robert Woods went down. They didn't have Tutu Atwell or Jacob Harris, and they were really utilizing Van Jefferson, who got hurt halfway through the season, and in addition to that, Ben Skoranek. So that's another thing here. So keep in mind, context is definitely needed. Those are the first 3 games he played, but Robert Woods wasn't healthy, and it was later on in the season, so things changed. But it's very interesting when I look at this, the fact that Tyler Higbee is actually getting 16 of 24. He's getting 24 targets the first 3 games. That's pretty crazy to me. He's averaging 8 targets per game for the first 3 games. We'll see if it changes. Allen Robinson, though, am I concerned? I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned about Allen Robinson. I think he still has the talent. I think he's shown you that, and he's going to get on the same page with Stafford. I'm a little concerned that they're kind of phasing him out by accident. Like, it seems like they just aren't utilizing him correctly. They're kind of using him the same way they used Sammy Watkins, in the fact they'd use him on like those quick slants in the red zone. Like, I get they threw that fade up in the end zone to him, but they can also use him deep downfield. In my opinion, he is not the athlete. He's not as fast. He's not as physical. And he's not as much like Megatron as, you wish he was. But that's how the Rams should be playing Allen Robinson. They should be using him like the Lions used Megatron with Stafford. And so I understand he's not Calvin Johnson, but that catch radius, they are not taking advantage of. They're not throwing into coverage. I don't know what it is, to be honest with you, but I do think, as great as Stafford's been this year, I do think it's been a failure to get Allen Robinson involved. I think he's been open, and I think the Rams, for whatever reason, just haven't been utilizing him. Now, I think a lot of factors play into this. I think the offensive line not having the confidence they had in them in the game against Arizona, running those quick slants, quick screens, 3-step drops. I get that, because if you're going to run 3-step drops all day and every day, well, unfortunately, when you have a quarterback like Matthew Stafford, it doesn't allow him to run those 5- and 7-step drops, which doesn't really allow those big plays over the middle, over the top, whatever, to really, get going, right? You can't really develop those plays because you're throwing quick screens, quick checkdowns, trying to keep the defense from getting to your quarterback and managing the pressure. And so I think until the offensive line, they feel comfortable with them, I just don't see them really trying to test down the field. Now, I could be wrong. They might change it up. They might go with a completely different approach against the San Francisco 49ers. But I definitely think they got to get Allen Robinson involved more if they want to start seeing the results on the scoreboard that they deserve to see. Yesterday, no doubt about it, should have been a blowout. It was not, and I think a lot of that was because they failed to really get Allen Robinson involved. They didn't really run the ball as much with Darrell Henderson, and so I think they left some points on the field because of that. But that's what I have. So I'm really curious to hear what you guys think. Are you concerned with Allen Robinson? Are you not concerned with Allen Robinson? The way I'd answer it, again, I'm not concerned with Allen Robinson. I'm concerned with his usage. I think things will change. It's only the first 3 games, and obviously the Rams make adjustments. But I want to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. Be sure to subscribe, like, and comment, and I approve this message. You guys take care and go check out Into the AM. Later, folks.